Alright, so on to the second part, talking about BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar. Now what I'm going to do is bring up Fight Metric. I'm going to read off some of the stats for you, and then I'll put the link over in the description side. I was talking to Evan, the MMA Insight, last night. We were having a discussion on Facebook about the fight, and, you know, at first, and I'm not going to, here's the thing, I'm not going to call him out, because I don't want him to think that I'm trying to make a point off of him. But ultimately what happened was we had a disagreement on how the fight was scored at first, and then, as we discussed it a little bit further, we kind of saw a little eye to eye on some different things. So, regardless of that, what I noticed, and the reason I'm bringing Evan up, and it's not just Evan, it was some other people too, and even at the sports bar that I went to, a lot of people were saying that BJ definitively won 4 rounds, or at least 5 rounds, and that is further from the truth, in my opinion, than anything. Now, if you go to Fight Metric, and BJ Penn landed more total strikes. Now, here's the thing. If this would have been a total, a fight scored on the total fight, which, they did it similarly in Pride with where they split it up with the large, 10-minute first round and then the 5-minute second round, BJ probably would have won this fight. And I'm going to say that now, ahead of time, because this fight was nowhere near, and there was a lot of comparisons. Carson even talked about it, and even before I watched this video, I already had this discussion with some other people from YouTube and then outside of YouTube as far as friends, that they compared it to the Machida Shogun decision. Nowhere close. Shogun definitively won 4 rounds. No question involved. I mean, you can't even, you go and you look at the stats, and you can clearly see, as well as watching the fight, that he won 4 rounds. In this fight, you had a 2-round split between each guy and a 3rd round that really was the decider. And that's where, to be honest, and I'm going to say this ahead of time, you could have really given it to either guy, and I'm going to show you how close it was. In the first round, BJ Penn landed a total of 16 hyper strikes, which means they're in this area from the head, shoulder area, up. Low per strikes would be from the waist down, head. BJ Penn landed 16. He landed 2 to the body. Frankie Edgar landed 10 hyper. 5 to the head, 2 to the body, 3 to the legs. So total in this round, if you want to total the strikes up, BJ Penn wins this round. Okay. Round 2. BJ Penn lands 19 hyper strikes, 16 to the head, 1 to the body. Frankie Edgar lands 6 hyper strikes, 4 to the head, 1 to the body, 1 to the legs. I'll give you a total of the first round for Penn, 18 to 10 strike-wise in the first round for Penn. Second round, 17 to 6 in the second round for Penn. Third round was a hell of a lot closer than people made it out to be, and this is why I wanted to make this comparison, so that people would understand that you could literally have given this fight to either guy. It wasn't as definitive as people made it out to be. 11 hyper strikes for Penn, 9 strikes to the head for Penn, 2 to the body, 10 hyper strikes for Edgar, 7 to the head, 2 to the body, 1 to the legs. Total 11 for Penn, 10 for Edgar. Barely Penn edged that round out based upon strikes. Now, here's something else about Fight Metric that a lot of people don't factor in, and I mentioned this back when I talked about the Forrest Griffin and the Rampage Jackson fight, that Fight Metric also counts strikes that land even if they're blocked by the opponent. So if Frankie Edgar would have, dodged and it would have connected on the arm, or a body kick connects and Frankie Edgar blocks, they still count that. So some of the shots that Edgar may have landed, a couple of them that they counted, Penn may have blocked, which a couple Penn did, as well as some of the ones that Penn threw, Edgar blocked. So keep that in mind when you look at Fight Metric. Round 4, Edgar, 13 hyper strikes, 1 low per strike, 8 to the head, 5 to the body, 1 to the legs. Penn, 13 hyper strikes, 0 low per strikes, 10 to the head, 0 to the body, 3 to the legs. Edgar, 14 to 13. Fifth round, hyper strikes for Penn, 12. Hyper strikes for Edgar, 22. Low per strikes, 1 apiece. Hyper strikes, or head strikes, 10 for Penn, 15 for Edgar. Body, 6 for Edgar, 2 for body for Penn. 1 for Penn for the legs, 2 for Edgar for the legs. 23-13 Edgar. So as you can see, the 4th and the 5th rounds, Edgar snuck out, plus the takedown, which you don't have. Let me see if they listed that on here. I believe that was in the 4th round, wasn't it? Okay, Edgar attempted 3, landed 1. 4th round is where he got. I know he clinched a couple times. I can't remember what round he got the takedown in. And they're not even showing it. I believe it was the 4th round. Let me take a look and let me see. Yeah, I believe it was the 4th round. I know in the 2nd round he got a small takedown. Okay, here we go. Hold on a second. Let me take a look at this. Now see, they've got this all wrong. And this is where, right here, this is where there's a problem. In the 4th round, they're not even counting the one takedown. I could have sworn it was in the 4th, not the 5th. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that the takedown was in the 5th round, or in the 4th round, not the 5th, and they've got it listed as the 5th round. So, I may be wrong on that, but I could have sworn it was the 4th round, so I'll just leave it at that. I thought it was the 4th. You know, if it wasn't the 4th, oh well. But based upon the takedown that I thought he got in the 4th round I thought was not really a question. So I thought that Edgar had won that. 5th round, Edgar edged that one out pretty convincingly. So, you know, the 3rd round was really the questionable round, and that's where you can give this to either guy. And it's not as much of a robbery as the Machida Shogun fight. And I just wanted to point this out because when you hear people talk about that BJ Penn clearly outstruck Edgar, yeah, total fight-wise he did. However, when you go round by round, and that was the difference with the Forrest Griffin, even the Rampage Jackson fight, and the Machida and the Shogun fight. Round by round, those guys outstruck their opponent. And you have to do that when you look at round by round scoring. You can't look at the total final breakdown because a guy may have landed more strikes in a round that ends up making the total higher for him. It's a little deceiving. So, you know, I mean, it is what it is. It came out being a very, very close fight. I just wanted to show that you could have scored it for either guy. It wasn't as definitive people made it out to be. You could have easily given it to BJ, and you could have easily given it to Frankie Edgar. Either way, you know, when BJ got done in the 5th round, his corner was telling him, you know, to breathe real heavily. You know, after the 4th round, you know, JD was telling him not to turn around to breathe at him, to kind of not give that away. I guess, but you know, he had the look on his face that he thought he may have lost the fight. And when you see a fighter look like that, it's already kind of a foregone conclusion. You know, Machida looked the same way after the Shogun fight. You know, it wasn't a surprise. Was it a justifiable decision? Yes. Would have been a justifiable decision to give it to BJ? I think so too. I think it could have gone either way. So, you know, it's one of those fights that it was that close. And if you look at it in that perspective I just gave you, unbiasedly, don't go in with any preconceptions. I do believe, in my opinion, you'll see those kinds of little intricate things that I was pointing out, where you can see that it was a very, very close fight. So, just wanted to point that out. Other than that, good night of fights.